We've all been there. A deadline looms, we have tasks to complete, yet we find ourselves drawn to distractions. Procrastination, the art of delaying the inevitable, is a universal human experience. It affects students, professionals, and everyone in between. We often label it as laziness or a lack of discipline, but what if the truth runs deeper? This exploration delves into the psychology of procrastination. We'll uncover the hidden reasons behind our tendency to delay. It's a journey into the depths of fear, the grip of perfectionism, and the struggle with self-worth. Join us as we unravel this complex puzzle and discover solutions along the way. Procrastination is not simply a matter of laziness. It's a complex interplay of emotions, thoughts, and even our brain's wiring. Fear plays a significant role, often lurking beneath the surface. Fear of failure whispers doubts, while fear of success brings its own anxieties. Then there's the fear of judgment, the worry of not meeting others' expectations. Perfectionism, another culprit, sets the bar impossibly high. This pursuit of flawlessness can paralyze us, making it easier to avoid tasks altogether. We'll dissect these hidden drivers and understand their influence on our behavior. Our sense of self-worth also intertwines with procrastination. Low self-esteem can fuel a cycle of delay. We doubt our abilities, leading to inaction and further reinforcing negative self-perception. This exploration is not about judgment, but about understanding. We'll examine how our brains respond to stress and decision-making, shedding light on why starting tasks can feel so challenging. This is a journey of self-discovery, a chance to understand the mechanisms behind procrastination. More importantly, we'll equip ourselves with practical tools to break free. Fear, a primal emotion, can manifest in unexpected ways. When it comes to procrastination, fear often wears a disguise. We might label it as laziness or lack of motivation, but beneath the surface lies a deep-seated fear of failure. This fear whispers doubts, questioning our abilities and painting a picture of potential humiliation. We envision the disappointment in the eyes of our peers, the judgment of our superiors, and the sting of not living up to our own expectations. The fear becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, paralyzing us from taking the necessary steps to succeed. We avoid the task, and in turn, avoid the potential pain of failure. Ironically, fear can also manifest as a fear of success. This might seem counterintuitive, but the prospect of success can be equally daunting. Success brings change, and change can be uncomfortable. It can mean stepping outside of our comfort zones, embracing new responsibilities, and facing the unknown. We might fear the pressure of maintaining success, the potential envy from others, or even the possibility of outgrowing our current lives. This fear can lead us to sabotage our own progress, subconsciously holding ourselves back from reaching our full potential. We procrastinate as a way to maintain the status quo, even if that status quo is no longer serving us. The fear of judgment adds another layer to the complex tapestry of procrastination. We are social creatures, wired to seek approval and avoid rejection. This desire for acceptance can lead us to prioritize the opinions of others over our own needs and goals. We delay tasks, not because we don't want to do them, but because we fear the judgment that might follow. We imagine critical eyes scrutinizing our every move, waiting for us to stumble. This fear can be particularly paralyzing for those who struggle with social anxiety or perfectionism. The weight of these expectations can feel suffocating, making it easier to avoid the task altogether than to risk potential disapproval. Perfectionism, often mistaken for a virtue, can be a cruel taskmaster. It sets the bar impossibly high, demanding flawless execution in every endeavor. This relentless pursuit of an unattainable ideal can be a breeding ground for procrastination. We delay, not because we are lazy, but because we are terrified of falling short. Every task becomes a monumental undertaking, fraught with the potential for mistakes and imperfections. We get caught in a cycle of planning and replanning, editing and re-editing, always striving for an elusive ideal that never seems to materialize. This fear of imperfection can lead to analysis paralysis, where we become so fixated on getting it right that we never actually get it done. Perfectionism at first glance might seem like a positive trait. We associate it with high standards, attention to detail, and a drive to excel. However, beneath the surface of this seemingly admirable quality lies a double-edged sword. Perfectionism can be both alluring and agonizing, driving us towards achievement while simultaneously holding us back. The allure of perfection lies in its promise of control and validation. We believe that if we can just achieve that flawless outcome, we will finally be worthy of love, acceptance, and success. This belief system often stems from early childhood experiences, where we learn to equate our worth with our achievements. Perfectionism is often intertwined with imposter syndrome, the pervasive feeling of being a fraud despite evidence of competence. Those struggling with imposter syndrome live in constant fear of being exposed as inadequate, believing that their successes are a result of luck or deception rather than genuine ability. This fear fuels the need to maintain a facade of perfection, leading to procrastination as a way to avoid situations where their perceived inadequacies might be revealed. They delay tasks, fearing that any imperfection will confirm their deepest fears of being found out. Procrastination becomes a defense mechanism, a way to protect their fragile sense of self-worth from the perceived threat of failure. Ironically, the very pursuit of perfection often leads to self-sabotage. The fear of not meeting our own impossibly high standards can be so overwhelming that we unconsciously choose to fail. We procrastinate as a way to create a built-in excuse for any shortcomings. If we don't put in our full effort, if we wait until the last minute, then any failures can be attributed to those circumstances rather than to our own perceived inadequacies. This self-sabotage allows us to maintain a sense of control, albeit a negative one. It's a way of saying, I could have succeeded if I had really tried, preserving our ego while simultaneously avoiding the risks and vulnerability that come with genuine effort. Breaking free from the grip of perfectionism requires a shift in mindset and a willingness to embrace imperfection. It's about recognizing that perfection is an illusion, a destination that can never truly be reached. Instead of striving for flawlessness, we can choose to focus on progress, effort, and learning from our mistakes. This means setting realistic expectations, breaking down tasks into smaller, more manageable steps, and celebrating our accomplishments along the way. It's about learning to be kind to ourselves, to silence that inner critic that demands perfection, and to embrace the messy, imperfect beauty of being human. Remember, done is better than perfect. Our sense of self-worth, the value we place on ourselves, plays a pivotal role in our relationship with procrastination. When we struggle with low self-esteem, we tend to view ourselves through a lens of inadequacy. We doubt our abilities, question our judgment, and minimize our accomplishments. This negative self-perception can create a fertile ground for procrastination to take root. When we don't believe in ourselves, it becomes harder to believe in our capacity to succeed. Tasks seem daunting, deadlines feel insurmountable, and the fear of failure looms large. Procrastination becomes a defense mechanism, a way to protect ourselves from the perceived pain of inevitable disappointment. Self-doubt, a close companion of low self-worth, whispers insidious lies that undermine our motivation. It tells us we're not smart enough, talented enough, or disciplined enough to achieve our goals. We start to believe these lies, and our actions, or lack thereof, reflect this belief. We put off tasks, telling ourselves we'll do them when we're feeling more motivated or when we have more time. However, motivation often follows action, not the other way around. By procrastinating, we deny ourselves the opportunity to prove our self-doubt wrong. We get stuck in a vicious cycle where inaction fuels negative self-belief, leading to further procrastination. For some, procrastination becomes a way of coping with the discomfort of low self-worth. By avoiding tasks, we can temporarily escape the feelings of inadequacy that arise when we confront our perceived limitations. It's a way of saying, I'm not failing because I haven't even tried. This avoidance, however, comes at a cost. While it might provide temporary relief from negative emotions, it ultimately reinforces the cycle of low self-worth. We avoid challenges, fail to develop our skills, and miss out on opportunities for growth and accomplishment, all of which further erode our belief in ourselves. Overcoming procrastination rooted in low self-worth requires cultivating self-compassion. This means treating ourselves with the same kindness, understanding, and acceptance that we would offer to a close friend struggling with similar challenges. It's about acknowledging our imperfections without judgment, recognizing that everyone makes mistakes, and learning to forgive ourselves for our past shortcomings. Self-compassion also involves challenging negative self-talk. When self-doubt creeps in, we can practice reframing those thoughts in a more positive and realistic light. Instead of saying, I'm not good enough, we can ask ourselves, what evidence do I have to support this thought? What would I say to a friend who was feeling this way? By cultivating self-compassion, we create a more supportive inner environment that allows us to take risks, embrace challenges, and ultimately achieve our goals. To truly understand procrastination, we need to delve into the fascinating world of the human brain. Our brain, for all its complexity, is wired for survival, not necessarily for productivity. It has evolved to prioritize immediate gratification over long-term rewards, often leading us down the path of least resistance, even when that path leads to procrastination. Our brain is made up of different regions, each with its own specialized function. Two key players in the procrastination game are the prefrontal cortex, responsible for planning and decision-making, and the amygdala, our emotional control center, which plays a crucial role in our response to stress and perceived threats. Section 2. The prefrontal cortex struggle. The prefrontal cortex, located behind our forehead, is the seat of our higher cognitive functions. It's responsible for things like planning, organizing, setting goals, and delaying gratification. It's the part of our brain that allows us to override our impulses and make rational decisions aligned with our long-term objectives. However, the prefrontal cortex is also relatively new in evolutionary terms, and as such, it's easily fatigued. When we're stressed, overwhelmed, or faced with a task that seems daunting, the prefrontal cortex can become overloaded, leading to a phenomenon known as decision fatigue. In this state, our ability to make sound judgments and resist immediate gratification is compromised, making us more susceptible to procrastination. Section 3. The amygdala's alarm system. The amygdala, located deep within the brain, acts as our emotional alarm system. It's responsible for our fight-or-flight response, quickly assessing potential threats and triggering a cascade of physiological changes to help us cope with danger. While this system is essential for survival, it can also be triggered in situations that aren't life-threatening, such as facing a challenging task or an approaching deadline. When we perceive a task as overwhelming or stressful, the amygdala can interpret this as a threat, triggering our fight-or-flight response. This leads to feelings of anxiety, stress, and a desire to avoid the perceived danger, often manifesting as procrastination. We put off the task as a way to reduce the immediate discomfort, even though this avoidance often leads to greater stress and anxiety in the long run. Section 4. Rewiring our response. Understanding the brain's role in procrastination is empowering because it allows us to approach the challenge from a more compassionate and strategic perspective. We can learn to recognize the triggers that activate our amygdala's alarm system and develop strategies to manage our stress response. This might involve practicing mindfulness meditation, engaging in regular physical activity, or seeking support from a therapist or counselor. We can also strengthen our prefrontal cortex through practices that enhance focus and cognitive control, such as mindfulness training, prioritizing sleep, and breaking down large tasks into smaller, more manageable steps. By understanding the interplay between these brain regions, we can develop strategies to override our instinct to procrastinate and create healthier, more productive habits. Procrastination, like a mythical dragon, can feel insurmountable, its fiery breath scorching our motivation and leaving trails of unfinished tasks in its wake. But just as knights of old learned to slay their dragons, we too can equip ourselves. Emotional resilience, the ability to bounce back from setbacks and navigate challenges with strength and flexibility, is crucial for overcoming procrastination. When we cultivate emotional resilience, we develop a more robust sense of self-efficacy, believing in our ability to handle whatever life throws our way. This confidence empowers us to face our tasks head-on, rather than succumbing to the temptation to avoid or delay. Building emotional resilience involves developing a repertoire of coping mechanisms for managing stress and negative emotions. This might include practices like mindfulness meditation, deep breathing exercises, journaling, spending time in nature, engaging in creative pursuits, or seeking support from a therapist or counselor. By strengthening our emotional toolkit, we become better equipped to handle the inevitable challenges that arise in life, including the urge to procrastinate. Self-compassion, the practice of treating ourselves with kindness, understanding, and acceptance, particularly in the face of challenges or perceived failures, is a powerful antidote to procrastination. When we are self-compassionate, we acknowledge that everyone makes mistakes, that setbacks are a part of life, and that we don't have to be perfect to be worthy of love and belonging. This shift in perspective can be incredibly liberating, freeing us from the self-imposed pressure to perform flawlessly and reducing the fear of failure that often fuels procrastination. Practicing self-compassion involves cultivating a more supportive inner dialogue. Instead of berating ourselves for our mistakes or comparing ourselves unfavorably to others, we can choose to speak to ourselves with the same kindness and encouragement that we would offer to a close friend. This might involve challenging negative self-talk, reframing our perceived failures as opportunities for growth, and focusing on our strengths and accomplishments. One of the most effective strategies for overcoming procrastination is breaking down large, overwhelming tasks into smaller, more manageable steps. This simple yet powerful technique, often referred to as chunking, can make a world of difference in our motivation and productivity. When we focus on completing one small step at a time, the overall task feels less daunting, and we're more likely to take action. For example, instead of telling ourselves, "I need to write this entire report by Friday," which can feel overwhelming and lead to procrastination, we can break it down into smaller steps. Today, I'll research and gather the necessary data. Tomorrow, I'll create an outline. On Wednesday, I'll write the introduction and first section. By focusing on one manageable step at a time, we build momentum, gain a sense of accomplishment, and make steady progress towards our ultimate goal. We've journeyed deep into the heart of procrastination, exposing its hidden roots and unraveling its complex mechanisms. We've seen how fear, perfectionism, and low self-worth intertwine to create a formidable barrier to action. But more importantly, we've discovered that procrastination is not an unbeatable foe. Armed with self-awareness, compassion, and a toolbox of practical strategies, we can break free from its grip and reclaim our productivity. Remember, procrastination is not a character flaw. It's a human experience, often stemming from a desire to protect ourselves from perceived threats or discomfort. By understanding the underlying reasons behind our procrastination habits, we can approach them with greater compassion and develop strategies that address the root causes, rather than simply suppressing the symptoms. The path to overcoming procrastination is not about achieving perfect productivity or becoming immune to the allure of delay. It's about learning to recognize the triggers, manage our emotions, and take action even when we don't feel like it. It's about embracing imperfect action, knowing that done is better than perfect, and that every small step forward is a victory worth celebrating. As we cultivate emotional resilience, practice self-compassion, and break down our tasks into manageable steps, we begin to rewire our brains, strengthening the neural pathways associated with focus, motivation, and action. Over time, procrastination loses its grip, and we find ourselves moving through our lives with greater ease, purpose, and fulfillment.